Warning, the following podcast has been classified as insanely lucrative. Listener discretion is advised.
Not having a serious email address. Okay, so if you're using a Yahoo address or an AOL address or Gmail or anything like that, something that's not your business, it's showing that you're not.
Your attention, please. Listening to the AM/PM podcast may cause recurring revenue streams and unfair advantages over your competitors. Other side effects may include fatter wallets, fired bosses, and longer vacations. Listen at your own risk. Here's your host, seven-figure entrepreneur and online marketing madman, Manny Coates. Manny Coates.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the AM/PM podcast. My name is Manny Coates, and I will be your host, and this is the show where we discuss how to generate recurring revenue streams 24 hours per day during the AM and the PM, hence the name of the show, AM/PM podcast. As a matter of fact, today is Cinco de Mayo, and I'm pretty confident that I'm going to be going out to have a Corona or two, maybe a margarita, some carne asada tacos, things that I love. And while stuffing my face with those things, I will be making money. How cool is that? Pretty cool, I think. So we have to wait just a second as Guillermo is over there getting photos taken by the paparazzi. And here he is, my trusty co-host and the guy that cracks the whip and ensures that I get these podcasts out, at least on a somewhat regular basis, Guillermo Puyol! Guy, how the heck are you doing today on this Cinco de Mayo?
I'm doing awesome, Manny. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. That paparazzi is all over you. You're getting popular suddenly on this Amazon FBA private label niche industry business.
It's just because I hang out with you, man. That's all.
All right, man. So this is Thursday Q&A. We have two questions, and if I read my notes correctly, we have two audio questions. Is that not right?
That's correct.
All right. So, as everybody knows, unless you're a first-time listener, we always have our two Q&A questions, but we also have Manny's two questions to Guillermo. Sometimes they're even hypotheticals. But, Guillermo, are you ready for your first question?
I'm ready.
Hey guys, this is not the Q&A question. This is Guillermo's question. So here we go, Guy. If you could have only one meal for the rest of your life, what would it be? And tell us why.
Man, one meal for the rest of my life.
And we're talking about breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, holidays, forever.
It would probably be some sort of granola, nutty bar kind of thing. Something that has some fruits, some nuts.
Why not pizza? Pizza has all the food groups, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it does have all the food groups, but I don't want to roll my way through life, you know? I'm gonna just...
Too many calories? Come on.
I guess so.
All right. So let's get serious here. Let's go into question one of the Q&A. Guy, take it away.
All right. This one comes from Paul. He actually recorded it on AM/PM podcast on Ask Manny. So here's the audio. Roll tape.
Gentlemen, thanks a lot for your podcast. I stumbled across you on Stitcher after listening to another PL podcast for about 200 episodes. I love your no bullshit type of an approach, and who could turn down Guillermo's sexy ass accent? Hey guys, I have for quite a while been looking for sort of bunny scratcher type of products. I've got Jungle Scout. I've been very successful at finding lots and lots of products that fall into that category. My real challenge in my question for you guys is, what do I do about Alibaba? I have sent over 150 emails, 40 in one day one time, on this stable of 60 products that I believe would fit into that sort of bunny scratcher approach where you're doing 3 to 5 sales a day in a thinly contested market. And I'm getting no responses. I mean, the only responses I get are from whoever they sold the email list to. Sometimes if I do get a response, it's 3 to 5 weeks later. And I don't know if they think that product is going to be such a low seller that they don't put any eyeballs on it, they don't care. But, it also seems like they're unrealistic about the price that they want for it because they know it's going to be a relatively low-selling product. So do you have any advice or anything you'd like to share? I really appreciate it. Thanks. My name is Paul.
Thank you, Paul. Why are you laughing, Guy?
The sexy accent. I mean, I know. I have a very sexy accent, but it's funny when I do it, points it out.
All right. So, okay, where do we start with this one? I'm probably going to get some serious input from you, Guy, but if you don't mind, I'm going to take a shot at it. Is that cool?
Go for it, yeah.
All right. So, why would Alibaba companies or the companies on Alibaba not get back to you in any kind of serious time frame? I have a few thoughts that come to mind. Okay, and first, let me say that this hasn't really happened to me. So I'm going to kind of step outside a little bit and figure out what I would be doing or what I could be doing, I guess, that would cause that. So the first thing that comes to mind, and I think you probably are thinking the same thing, is the email address. Is that what you were thinking?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So not having a serious email address. Okay. So if you're using a Yahoo address or an AOL address or Gmail or anything like that, something that's not your business, it's showing that you're not really that serious, right? So if you're representing, if your company is company XYZ, you should have an email. Your email should be your name at company XYZ or business at XYZ or product purchases at XYZ, something, right? So definitely get an email address that is related to your company. It doesn't cost that much. Yeah, it's cheap. It's going to make you look serious. Get that going. Just stop using your Gmail accounts. And so when you're setting up your account over at Alibaba, make sure that you update that information in there if you've already used a Gmail account. Another thing that could probably be hurting you is you don't sound serious when you're contacting them. So we don't know the email. We haven't seen the email that you actually send out to these companies. But you should probably be using our email template. We had an email template on episode 8. Is that what it was, Guy?
Yes, episode 8.
So on the AMPM podcast episode 8, we have an actual email template that you can just copy and paste. Just kind of change your information on there, your names, and adjust the questions as needed. But it's already done for you. Just send that out, and it's a serious email. It asks very specific questions about their products, and it shows that you're serious. If you're contacting them and you're just saying, hey, send me your pricing or send me your catalog or some just basic stuff, there's a million people that are doing that every single day. Okay, if you're not composing your email correctly, it just looks like you're some Yahoo that's not a serious company, and they're probably going to skip that one, especially if they come in the morning and they've got 400 emails to go through, which they probably do. They're going through them as quickly as possible. They're probably organizing them in order of who they think is a potential gold mine, essentially, who's going to be giving them a lot of business. Okay, let's see. The other thing would probably be, are you signing? I mean, this is a small one, but are you signing your company name and your position at the end of your email? That again, that's in the template, but a lot of people don't do that. They'll just be like, "Hey, thanks." They won't even put their name on there. But make sure you do that. Say sincerely, Manny Coates, purchasing manager, company XYZ, or whatever designation or title you want to give yourself. Guy, anything you want to add on the things I brought up or anything else that you can think of?
I think you're right on the money, man. I think it's just we are making a lot of assumptions, and if we're completely wrong, Paul, let us know. But if our assumptions are correct, I think that it's just a perception from the supplier's point of view. If they think that you're not serious, then they're not going to waste their time responding to you. Yeah.
One final thing that would be potentially, you mentioned the bunny scratcher type of markets. Okay, so in those cases, you're talking about very limited suppliers. Okay, like in my case, my bunny scratcher product, as we call it, I have one competitor. Okay, and this also means that the total number of sales per day on a product like that is probably going to be 20 or 30 per day as the whole market. Okay, the whole thing, that's a maximum amount that you can get if you own 100% of it. Okay, and since these products are so specialized, it could be that there just aren't enough companies that make these products. Okay, or maybe even those that that did. They're showing up on Alibaba at some point where they had them. Maybe they've discontinued them, so they just don't respond to any emails that you're sending them related to that product. I got lucky with my bunny scratcher product. I contacted a few companies that made these. And there weren't very many, by the way, and only 2 of them got back to me. So I got samples from both of them, and they were both decent. They were actually, they were both pretty much the same thing, and my choice at the end was just based on pricing. And also the flexibility of the companies to work with me on their MOQ, their minimum order quantity, right? So that could be the other thing. You've niched it down so specifically that they've either discontinued that product, but they're still listing on Alibaba, or they just don't see that there's any real profit potential, especially if your email going out to them has super low MOQs. Like if you're saying, I want 500 units, but it's only costing you, 50 cents per unit, they're thinking, $250 for an order just isn't worth really spending any time on it. So that's all I got to say about that, Guy.
Cool. I think that's good, and hopefully, Paul, that helps you out.
Cool. All right. Question number 2 for Guillermo from Manny. All right, Guy.
No. I think we need to change it up, man. I have one for you.
Come on, that's not the way it works.
I know.
Do you really have one for me?
I do.
Oh no. All right, go for it.
Are you ready?
Yes.
All right. So, 30 wolves in a field, 28 sheep. How many didn't?
Wait, your accent is so thick. I didn't get that. 30 wolves in the field, 28 sheep.
Sheep.
Uh-huh.
How many didn't?
How many didn't? Is this a riddle?
Think about it.
30 wolves in a field, 28 sheep. How many didn't?
You're gonna have to get back to that one, Manny.
No, now you got me going. I don't get it. Hang on. Is this something your kids told you?
It is, and it's actually pretty good. 30 wolves in a field, 28 sheep. How many didn't?
Oh, I got it. 30 wolves in the field, 20 wolves, 8 sheep. 28 sheep. How many didn't? So there would be 10.
Exactly. Good job, man.
That's pretty good. It only took me, we killed a minute on this thing. I will definitely edit this down, guys. All right. Yeah, that did actually take me at least a minute. Okay, so, Guy, man.
All right. What's up?
I got to ask you your question.
Oh, come on.
I know people want to get into the Q&A, so we're going to make this fast. But this is a very serious question. Normally, they're really goofy, super serious. If there was a rhinoceros and there was just a crap ton of ducks, okay, they were going to battle to the death, how many ducks would it take to finally kill that full-grown rhino?
How many ducks would it take to kill the rhino? Man, I have no clue. If they're all jumping, 500 ducks.
That's right. You got it perfectly.
You know this for a fact, right?
Yeah. No, I know that's a really weird question. All right, let's get serious here, Guy. Question number 2 on the Q&A. Hit me.
This one comes from Jason Stone. We had actually answered that question in the previous podcast, and he sent us a follow-up question.
Okay.
So let's go ahead and listen to it and see what we can do to help.
Hey, Manny and Guy, this is Jason Stone. Thanks for answering my other question. I had a follow-up question, which I think that you came close to answering. So part of what I was getting at was the fact that, let's just say that you have the ultimate product. You're in a niche by yourself. There's not a lot of competition. You know that you can make money on it. And that product idea you think is like, let's say, a 10 of a 10. What would be the minimum rating on a scale of 1 to 10 that you think someone could still pursue, particularly as an initial product? My thoughts being that, let's say, a 5 of a 10 is something that you see has enough demand and there is some competition there, but you think that you can get in there and sell some, and that when you've looked at the numbers, you think you're definitely going to be able to make some profit, but you don't know whether you're going to be getting anywhere close, for example, to the 50% margins, or you don't know for sure whether you're going to be able to hit 10 a day, make $10 off your sales. So my question for you guys is, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being run away, screaming, 10 being it's the golden goose, what level of a product would you encourage people to take action on, or versus just keep looking for another option? Thanks.
Thank you, Jason, for that question. Yeah, I'm always nervous when people start throwing scales of 1 to 10 on things, right? Because they're so different for everybody. What you might find a 10, I might find a 2, and vice versa, right?
I think he definitely has some sort of reservations on maybe he's not finding what he considers a perfect 10. So he's trying to see how low should he go in that scale he has. So maybe instead of using a subjective scale from 1 to 10, a few parameters of what you consider a go or a no-go would be helpful.
Okay. Well, let me use his parameters, actually. So I would say, okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, when do you pull that trigger? Okay. With a 10 being a sure bet. I would say that depends. Okay. I would first actually ask, is there really a 10 for a product? I guess the way I look at it is, I suppose if you dominate 100% of the market and nobody can compete with you because of, let's say, a patent, or you've created something that's so awesome and cool that there's the inability for people to actually make that product, okay? On top of those two things, okay, you control 100% of it. There's also sufficient sales to meet the financial criteria that you're looking for, okay? Let me say that again. There's sufficient sales to meet the financial criteria that you're looking for. Then that, in my case, would be a 10, okay? Everything else would be a less than a 10. So let me think about this. Okay, yeah, so in the question that we just answered previously with Paul, right? We were talking about the bunny scratcher type product. And for those of you that are brand new, never heard of the bunny scratcher, I know I kind of went into it, but this means it's a product essentially that there's very little demand for, but there's also almost no competition. Okay, so you can jump into something that's super niche, super weird. I mean, you've gotten it down to something where you're shooting for low volume, but it's easy money. Okay, so it also means that I might go below the $10 profit level per unit that I've set for myself. I always tell people, shoot for that $10 profit. I'm not the first one that came up with that. Scott Volker was talking about. That's probably where I learned it from initially. Was that $10 profit per unit, and I think it's good. But it just happens to fall within the percentages that I like. It's 25% of what I sell. Most of my stuff is about $40, so $10. That's what I teach. But anyways, it's free money, right? So let's just say, for example, that the bunny scratcher makes me $8 profit per unit, and I can sell 5 units per day with virtually no competition. Okay, 8 units times 5 units, $8 times 5 units. That's $40 per day. So that's $1,200 in profit per month. Okay, I would go for that right away. It doesn't fall within the criteria that I normally go for. I mean, it's only 5 units per day, and it's under that $10, but there's no competition. But you have to kind of step outside of the norm, I guess, what everybody teaches and what's normal, right, for your criteria, and look at the whole picture. And that looks like something that is good. I would do it. So as a matter of fact, I was making maybe a few sales per week when I started with my bunny scratcher idea. And I was like, I don't know if it's going to work. But eventually it grew to a pretty substantial amount. In fact, last month, it sold over 267 units. No, 260 units. 267 units, I believe, was the actual number. Last month alone. Okay, that's across the variations of that product. So, Guy, that's over $2,000 in profit for me after pay-per-click spend. $2,000 for a product that does not fall within the criteria that I normally teach. So
for a super obscure product, yeah.
For a super obscure product, right. Okay, so we're now talking about, 267 units a month is a little less than 10 units per day. So it's not a home run by any means. But to me, this is nearly a 10 product, okay? I'd call it probably an 8. I would say it's an 8, which is pretty high for me. I would probably push it to a 9 if it generated 5 figures per month, and I'd probably almost for sure push it to a 10 if it could generate 6 figures per month in sales. Okay, but it doesn't. It generates 4 figures per month in sales. So, anyways, earlier I mentioned that the score would be assigned in a way that is heavily based on there being sufficient sales to meet the financial criteria that I'm looking for. I mentioned that a couple times, right? This is really important. I want to talk about this. So think about this. For me, okay, a product that generates $2,000 in pure profit every month really isn't a 10. Okay, I just talked about it, right? I said it's an 8, but I would go to a 9 or a 10 if it made more. But it's just, for me, that $2,000 a month, it's not scaled out large enough. I want to get something that'll be bigger. So I want to dump tons of money into the inventory of this product and drive tons of pay-per-click and just grow it out. But I can't, because the market's just not there. There's not enough people searching for this product. But now let's flip it over a little bit. Let's think of this 18-year-old college kid that's just jumped into private label for the first time, right? And he's got, let's just say he's the one that came out with this bunny scratcher that I'm selling. So he's making the same product, and he's making $2,000 profit per month. To him, that could be a solid 10. Okay, and think about this. It might be the maximum amount of money that he can actually float. So there is no, it's not at an 8 for him. That's it. That's the maximum. And $2,000 profit to a college kid is probably pretty solid. And by float, you want to explain the float? What we mean by that when we say a float?
Yeah. One of the things that a lot of people don't consider is how much it costs to actually carry the inventory. And in many cases, the inventory literally floats because if you're shipping it by sea, you're waiting for all that time from the time where you order and pay for the inventory for it to get shipped by sea or in many cases by air. And all of that is a delay where you're not making money. The money just sitting there, and you have to be able to carry that inventory cost without any profits. Then it arrives to Amazon. It's going to take a little time for it to get processed into your inventory, get the sales going, and it's going to be a couple of weeks until Amazon pays you for that inventory. So there's 3 to 5 weeks where you're just out of money, and you have to be able to have enough money to buy. Especially the second order can be the most painful one because you're trying to not run out of inventory, but then you haven't gotten paid for the first one yet, and you have to order another one. So you have to take those things into consideration, and that's what Manny is referring to with floating the inventory.
Yeah, it could be brutal. I mean, if you have $2,000 to start with, and you just paid you spent all $2,000 of it, or let's say the majority of it on inventory, and it came in, you spent a little bit more on getting some reviews and a little bit of pay-per-click. So your $2,000 is spent, right? And it's starting to sell, and you're like, man, you're going to make back. Let's say you can even double your money. You're going to make $4,000 back, right? Which you're going to reinvest fully. The problem with that is, in order to order double the amount of inventory, right? You're going to be spending several $1,000s, okay? But you can't do that, as Guy just mentioned, until you get paid. And you're not going to get paid for the amount that you need until all of those units are sold, and then until that pay period comes where Amazon pays you. And then you place your order with the supplier, and then the supplier, typically, if you have a good custom private label product, doesn't just have the stuff on stock. It's not like, oh yeah, we'll ship it out tomorrow. They're going to say, yeah, it's going to be 15 days or 20 days before they actually finish it. And then your option is to probably order it via express air to get it over in another 5 to 7 days, maybe 8 days, right? So it's just, you have to, in that case, you have to be able to have the money to be able to expand that float. You need more than the initial order. So anyways, going back to what I was saying, for an 18-year-old college kid, my 8 rating for the bunny scratcher, for them, that might be a solid 10. So, determine how much you want to make, and guys, more importantly, how much you can afford to make. I know a lot of people don't say that, right? How much can you afford to make? And it's a really good question you have to ask yourself. I know it sounds weird, but if you come out with a great product, you might find yourself in a position where the demand exceeds your financial ability to keep up with that demand. If you're out of inventory for a month because of all of this, you lose all your rankings. It just becomes pretty brutal.
I think that would be a situation, like I said, it would be of the problems to have with private label. Too much demand is definitely one of the better ones, because you can always be creative with the financing. If you have a really good product, you can always, money is really not that hard to come by if you have a good solid product to sell. So you can do anything from finding a partner to getting a loan to even Amazon does small business loans. So that problem wouldn't be the worst one to have, honestly, but it's definitely something to consider.
Yeah. And I don't know if that answers Jason's question. I mean, at what point do you actually pull the trigger? I guess it's just really, it's relative to where you are in the business and your finances and competition and a million things. What you might rate a 5, somebody else might say, hey, this is an 8 or a 9, or I might say it's a perfect product. I know that for sure. My bunny scratcher, if I were to put it all on paper and stuff and showed people initially, they would have been like, nah, that's not a good product. Stay away from it.
Now, just to make sure that we're answering the question as thoroughly as possible, Manny, is there a number, for example, of reviews on any given product that would be a deal breaker? Like the number one competitor or the top 3 competitors have 1,000+ reviews or 3,000+ reviews, or is there a price point that you'll never go under? Because I think those parameters will help Jason a little better than kind of the subjective 1 through 10 scale. Is there any kind of input you have?
I think it all depends. I would say that if you're going into a niche where all the sales are dominated by one big seller, right, one brand, and they've got 1,000 reviews, then that would be something that I would definitely stay away from, or almost always stay away from. I shouldn't say always or definitely for sure, because there's scenarios where that might not be the case. They're complicated scenarios. We won't go into those. But if it's like, you got your top 10 sellers in this particular niche, and there's room for you, and you're like, you know what, I would like to get in there and get a percentage of these sales, and the top one has 1,000 reviews, and then they drop from there, and the bottom one has 40. I would consider getting into that for sure. I think when people say, oh, products have more than 300 reviews, you got to stay away. I think that's probably a safe way of looking at stuff, because there's so many products out there, right? There's millions of products and ideas you can come up with. So why jump into something that is that's overly complicated or saturated with reviews and stuff, when you might be able to jump into something where, for example, my bunny scratcher idea, one of the cool things about it was there was only one competitor, but the number of reviews that he had, or she, I'm not sure who owns it, but it was very low, right? So it was easy for me to actually generate more reviews, product reviews than they had. In terms of going below a certain amount, I certainly wouldn't get into a market where everything is priced super aggressively and it looks like it's a race to the bottom, when it comes to pricing. You don't want to be in that situation. You want to have a product that your private label version is different than everybody else's, so that you don't have to compete on price. They can keep dropping their price, but your product is differentiated enough and it's got enough cool things that people would be willing to pay more for your product than they would for the others. So there's a lot of stuff. It's hard to answer this question, what makes it a good product, because we've covered this in podcasts, and it takes several podcasts, full podcasts, to actually choose a product, to figure out all the criteria, from reviews to sales numbers to the whole gamut, right? Packaging, everything.
Yeah, and I think that's good. And again, Jason, if you haven't listened to all the episodes, definitely go through at least episodes 5 to 10. Those go through the entire product selection process and coming up with ideas. That should help. And my best advice is just pull the trigger, man. Just get started. I think that's the best way to learn, is to actually do it.
Yeah, I agree. I think too many people will get stuck in that panic mode where they're like, oh man, I got to get this right, or I got to get this perfect. And they just never pull the trigger. I think there's a fine line though, right? You can be too eager and jump into stuff without enough research, and then you kind of get hosed, right? Because you're like, oh man. And that kind of happened with me with my first product, which didn't work out. But there's also those people that, they're 6 months in and they still haven't pulled the trigger, because they just don't pull the trigger. People just don't do it a lot of times. So you just got to do it, right? Got to get out there and start that business.
Yeah.
Guy, anything else?
No, as always, I ask that you check out review the podcast on iTunes. Send your questions in. We love getting these audio questions, a lot more engaging. And be sure to join our Facebook group, the FBA High Rollers. You can find it by going to ampmpodcast.com, and it's going to be on the sidebar.
Yep, we'd love to see you in there. We just hit our 2,000 members mark, so we're growing relatively quickly. It's an awesome group in there. That's one of the things that a lot of people don't know, is that we post videos. Usually I go in there and I'll post a video on something pretty cool that you can't see anywhere else. Okay, so it's not available on our AMPM podcast site. It's only in the Facebook group. So definitely join the Facebook group so you don't miss those. And check me out on Periscope at Manny Coates. Follow me there, and I can answer your questions live on video.
Cool. Thank you for listening, guys.
Take care, everybody.
You've been listening to the AMPM podcast hosted by Manny Coates. For more information, insider tools, and to get the resources mentioned in this episode, visit ampmpodcast.com.